Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show, where we help you make the wisest and most profitable decisions. My name is Dr. Gleb Tsipursky. I'm the CEO of Disaster Avoidance Experts, the future of work consultancy that sponsors the Wise Decision Maker Show. And today, I want to share with you about a new frontier of remote work, outsourcing jobs overseas. You're not surprised by this, are you? The remote work and the changing business landscape means that businesses need to leverage flexibility to recruit and retain talent. And we see extensive labor shortages and rising wages. So it's driving the outsourcing of jobs overseas, because cutting costs is becoming a priority as well as getting great talent. And so this is huge. There's a lot of companies that have never engaged in outsourcing that are engaging in outsourcing increasingly because of remote work. Companies saw increased productivity with work from home during the pandemic, and now with increasing remote work availability, that's what they're looking for. Cheaper talent overseas, and some companies are hiring better talent overseas, not cheaper talent overseas, so it depends. But most companies that I've seen, and I've helped 25 companies transition to figuring out their future work models. 23 of them chose a hybrid first model, 2 of them chose a remote first model, but the large majority of the ones that chose a hybrid first model still hire a minority of fully remote workers, many of them hire overseas. So 7.3% of US senior managers are moving jobs abroad due to remote work, including many of the companies I work with. 10 to 20 of US service support jobs may move overseas in the next decade, research shows, including software developers, HR professionals, and payroll administrators, as well as many others. Trust is crucial if you're going to successfully outsource remote work. So successful remote work relies on trust, not a distributed workforce where you have your own office somewhere else, but actually people working remotely in their own homes overseas, which again, previously we've seen a lot of distributed workforces. Now we're seeing increasingly actually fully remote workforces overseas. And trust is crucial here, especially it's more important when outsourcing overseas because there's more challenges to overcome. You want to build trust through open communication and transparency. Clearly define your expectations, your goals, and your company values to build a culture for people who are working remotely overseas, and create an environment that values employee input and concerns. So make sure to get their input and concerns, both your existing employees here in the US and your employees overseas, your new employees. Overcome communication challenges with people who are global. Working with them brings some challenges. There are multiple time zones, so consider that. There's a language barrier. Now, you're generally going to hire English speakers, but English is, generally speaking, going to be their second language. So you need to consider that. And you want to overcome these challenges through prioritizing flexibility, including in asynchronous communication. And that can help a lot with the time zone differences. And create a system for employees to share updates with foreign colleagues, so you collaborate well together. And you can use a lot of project management tools to do that, for example. And offer language support or training to bridge communication gaps. So sometimes you'll hire people for whom English is a second language, and you'll discover that they need some better English in some areas. So you want to provide that language training service as part of doing so. Adapt your leadership styles for global remote teams. And that means adapting to cultural differences. What works for US employees may not work elsewhere. So learn about the cultural style of the employees in the place that you hire. So cater to individual needs and preferences of these employees. And you will need to have empathy and understanding if you're going to be a successful manager of remote teams. So what technology and infrastructure do you need? That includes upgraded communication tools that are going to be a fit for global communication, robust cybersecurity measures for people who are working remotely from developing countries, if you're going to be hiring from those, for example. Ensure employees have access to necessary resources. So, for example, some countries, I've had clients who hired employees in, for example, the Philippines or Nigeria, and they sometimes had blackouts. So we worked with finding generators for employees in the company, sponsoring that for employees in their local area so that they can have access to electricity to work on their internet. So navigate data privacy regulations and compliance requirements. Different countries have different regulations and compliance requirements, so you must be prepared to navigate various complexities. Now, there are some pitfalls. You can have a risk of alienating your local employees here who might be threatened by job loss. So address their concerns openly and honestly. Emphasize that you're committed to your existing workforce, but you might hire, and you are going to hire, future employees elsewhere. So there's a need for additional investment in infrastructure and training for your current employees and for your global employees. Cutting corners in that will lead to poor performance. They can undermine any potential cost savings. Now, there are a couple of dangerous cognitive biases you want to overcome. These are dangerous judgment errors we have because of how our mind is wired. The status quo bias is one of them. There's a preference for maintaining the current state even if changing is beneficial for us. It can prevent companies from outsourcing jobs overseas. And to overcome this bias, you want to gather data and analyze the benefits and drawbacks of outsourcing. Look at the business case for it. Present a compelling case for change to the decision makers and involve key stakeholders. Address their concerns if you want to foster effective buying. Another one is the empathy gap. It's a difficulty in understanding other people's feelings, motivations, and behaviors. Often this is about when the people are different from us. So people who are different from us, we have trouble understanding their emotions, their motivations, their behaviors. So outsourcing decisions may lack consideration of the emotions, of the emotional impact on employees who may be replaced and will have to collaborate with new international colleagues. So again, they fear being replaced. If you are not intending to replace them, you really want to reinforce that you won't do that. You're just looking to hire future employees elsewhere. But you also want to address their concerns about collaborating with international colleagues who have different time zones, who have different cultural backgrounds and preferences, who may need some hand-holding and using English and so on. Address the empathy gap. Put yourself in the shoes of your employees. Conduct surveys, focus groups, or one-on-one conversations to gather their input, to understand their concerns, to make them feel heard, and develop a clear plan to address these concerns. That's what I do with my clients, and it's very helpful. Consider the cultural and emotional needs also of international employees, their backgrounds, values, and expectations, and create an inclusive, supportive environment. So again, train your employees and train who are current local employees and your international employees on how to work together and create policies that are going to be fostering a culturally inclusive environment. Cost benefits and diversity. Worldwide acceptance of remote work has made outsourcing clearly a new frontier where companies are competing. Global workforce provides a deep talent pool and labor cost savings. Hiring overseas can improve diversity in terms of DI, thinking styles, and cultural perspectives, which of course helps breed innovation. Navigating international remote work challenges. Here's what you need to do. Careful planning, and you need to shelf to your culture, to prioritize trust building locally and globally. Adapt your management styles for remote work overseas. Invest in the necessary infrastructure and technology. Ensure clear communication across various language barriers and time zones. And consider how you will address the concerns of your existing employees as well as, of course, those you will hire. The benefits are huge. You'll unlock the potential of a truly global workforce, create a more connected, diverse, and cost-effective team, and this is just a huge benefit for the clients that I'm working with that they're reaping by outsourcing remote work overseas. All right, everyone. I hope you benefited from this episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show. Please subscribe wherever you checked out the show and leave a review. It helps others discover the show and it helps us improve the show.